What is up, YouTube? We are back on the Fumble Pod. Here today to talk NFL Week 2 predictions. I'm your host, Dalton Lee, and we got a wide slate of games. So let's just dive right in. Now, I'm going to go ahead and say some of these games I'm going to dive into a little deeper than others. So if I don't dive super deep into the game you're looking forward to watching, I do apologize, but I am still, like usual, I'm going to touch on every game and just give my quick thoughts, feelings, unless it's one I feel is more important in its gravitas in terms of NFL season. So I'm gonna start off with my bias, get it up in front, out of the way. Panthers traveling to Arizona and play the Cardinals. Arizona's favored, 6.5 point favorites. I don't blame them. Arizona is coming off of a somewhat week one win against the Saints. I'm surprised that game was really that close. I felt like Arizona was leaps and bounds better than the Saints. But again, it was week one. We never know what to expect. And I'm honestly just off of initial thoughts. I do think that the Cardinals are going to beat the Panthers unless Carolina come out and show me something improvement wise on defense and offense. Offense has to be a little more consistent for me to believe in them. I think Bryce had a shaky start. A lot of the receivers looked a little underwhelming, and because they fell behind so quick, they couldn't really utilize Dowdle and Hubbard like they want to. So, if it's a close game and Carolina's able to play a more balanced offense like they were last year, it may end up just like how it was last year, where Carolina wins in overtime in a somewhat high-scoring affair. But right now, just in terms of both sides of the ball, I kind of believe in the Cardinals just a little more in terms of consistency going into this game. So I'm going to take Arizona to win this game outright. Next, starting off our 1 o'clock windows, we got the Rams and Titans. I think the Rams are going to take this one. It might still kind of be an ugly game. I didn't think they played particularly great on offense last week, but that defense has been phenomenal. Tennessee, if they play anything like they did last week, that defense was good. It was surprisingly good. The offense at times showed flashes. I think Cam Ward honestly had a pretty good first week in the NFL against a really good defense. We just gotta kind of hope that maybe his playmakers can step up and make plays. I think Cam Ward threw some really good passes all game, and it's just receivers weren't coming down with some of them. Some of them open, especially to Ridley. Ridley had two big drops late in that game that could have given him a chance to win. So, but I think the Rams again, proven head coach, proven quarterback, two proven wide receivers, solid run game, and a defense that looks like one of the best, with it being the youngest. So I just got to go with the Rams, honest, just straight up. Again, an interesting 1 o'clock window. We got two undefeated teams. We got the Jaguars going to Cincinnati to play the Bengals, and I honestly think Joe Burrow and the boys are going to get this. I don't think they're going to score just 17 points. I think they got week one out of the way. They got a win under their belts. The Jaguars' defense isn't nearly as good as the Browns' defense. And I don't know if the Jaguars' defense is ready to keep up with an offense like the Bengals or the offense. I think Trevor Lawrence didn't look phenomenal last week. They've relied a lot on ETN running the ball, which, again, they might still be able to do because I don't know what that Bengals front seven is going to look like with a team like that. They're more competent on offense than the Browns are, but I just Trevor Lawrence looks solid, but he still didn't really like flash generational talent like we all thought he would be when he came out into the league. And I just think if we're just going to go based off of matchups, I think the Bengals just have more talent and can outscore a lot of teams in this league. So I'm going to give them not to the Bengals, especially at home. Joe Burrow and them got to prove themselves after just barely missing the playoffs after a slow start last year. So I think they're trying to come out the gates hot and build confidence before they have to get into AFC North play for sure. Next 1 o'clock game is Browns Ravens, which it's shocking to say that it's two 0-1 teams, especially more so the Ravens, not the Browns. But Baltimore's going to steamroll the Browns. It's just It's just how it is. They have the, again, more complete team. I mean, Joe Flacco is not competing with Lamar Jackson. I don't know how the Browns team is going to defend Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson, Zay Flowers. Hell, DeAndre Hopkins at his old age is still out here making a couple plays every now and then. And again, this Ravens defense, little suspect at the end of that Bills game, but they're they're gonna have a fire lit under them after that debacle at the end of the game. Granted, one of those possessions wasn't really their fault. Henry fumbles, and they only have to go 30 yards to get a touchdown against arguably best quarterback in the league. So it's really, I think the Ravens are going to be more focused, especially on the defensive side of the ball, to make it happen. Just because I don't think Lamar played bad. I think Lamar played great. It was more so the defense kind of let him down. Even Derrick Henry, with the fumble, he still had 170 yards and an additional touchdown. He had two on the night. So even if the touchdown and fumble erase each other out, still had a great game. So I just see the Ravens running all over them and just having splash plays. They're probably going to beat them by more than 11.5. I would probably take the Ravens to cover that. Next 1 o'clock window, we got the Jets and Bills. And for the first time in a couple years, I am actually excited to see this game because Bills are coming off of a spectacular win, a nice little week 1 shocker comeback to win it. We get to see Josh Allen now offense, see if they can keep momentum from the end of that game going into week 2. And we get to watch a Jets team that honestly offensively played really, really well. I mean, Justin Fields looked like a competent, above average quarterback for the first time in his career, especially when it comes to passing the ball. We knew he could run the ball. He was super athletic in college and the pros. I mean, Chicago, I think he was the Bears' leading rusher one season with almost 1,000 yards. He's always been able to do that, but now it seems like they're kind of honing in on his passing game, and it looks better. He's got the weapons to make it happen. He's got Garrett Wilson. He's got a competent running back in the backfield, and Brees Hall. The offense is able to move, and especially with a somewhat weak offensive line, having a mobile quarterback just helps out because he can escape pressure versus a statue like Aaron Rodgers was last year. But with all that being said, I think it will be a track game for sure because I don't know how the Jets defense is going to play against Josh Allen, the Bills, and I don't know what the Bills defense is going to look like against this newfound Jets looking offense. But I think history is still going to repeat itself. I still think Josh Allen, the Bills, are going to take this game and just continue to do what they have done, which is win a lot of their division matchups. 6.5. It wouldn't shock me if the Jets keep it within 6, maybe even a field goal contest, because it is still a division game. It's an early division game. They might play each other close in the first matchup, but I have still more faith in Sean McDermott and Josh Allen over there versus the Jets. They're still kind of figuring things out, but I think Aaron Glenn's going to try and have that defense ready to go. But I'm still taking the Bills. Next, we got 2 tire fires, honestly. Well, I'm not going to say 2 tire fires. 1 tire fire for sure. Another team that's transitioning to new regime. We got the Patriots playing the Dolphins in Miami. I have no idea what Miami's doing. I don't know if Tua's just washed now. I don't know if it's just frustration from his receivers, but they open up at 1.5-point favorites in this game, and I really don't know why. Because that defense is not good. That offense looked atrocious last week. Couldn't run the ball. Tua just giving the defense free touchdowns. He's like Oprah out there. You get a pick. You get a pick. You get a pick. I mean, I don't know what Tua's seeing on the field and trying to make some of these throws. Whereas at least with Drake May can make a lot of throws. And I think Mike Vrabel is going to continue to pounce on that defense. The offense is a little but the Patriots have been known to run the ball well. And if they're able to do that, it's just going to open up the game for Drake May. And it's his second game with Josh McDaniels calling plays. I'm thinking as the season goes along, he's going to get more comfortable in it. And still, at times they were able to make splash plays last week against the Raiders. So I'm taking the Patriots in this one. It might only be by a field goal, but I just I like more of what's going on in New England versus in Miami, where in Miami it's almost looking like Tyreek Hill can be gone any day, Mike McDaniel can be gone any day. If they could get rid of Tua, they probably would, but they can't because they're paying them $250+ million. The only upside is that Jalen Waddle's young, but he's not even on the field that much really at the moment. So I don't know what's going on in Miami. I think Miami loses this game, there's going to be a lot of heads turned, especially in the building. So that's just my 2 cents. I think Patriots are going to be the more well organized team in this game, and that's why they're going to win. We got the 49ers and the Saints. Saints are currently 3.5 point favorites, but Brock Purdy's going to miss the next couple weeks. So Mac Jones is playing. And Mac Jones really hasn't looked good the last couple starts he made, including New England, Jacksonville, and now he's going to make one in San Francisco. But the Saints, again, I there's not a lot to write home about the Saints. I understand last week the game was close with the Cardinals, but I think this 49er team is still ultimately better. George Kittle's also hurt, and a lot of defense players are hurt, but again, I trust Kyle Shanahan more, and they still have Christian McCaffrey, and Ricky Pearsall actually played really good. Juwan Jennings was all right. I just this I even though it's going to be a backup versus Spencer Rattler, I'm still going to take the 49ers. I just trust them more, and I trust that gut feeling of taking them over this Saints team that I really think is only going to win like 3, maybe 4 games. And this is not one of them 3 or 4, just roster wise. So I'm taking 49ers there. Next, we got Giants in Jerry World. I don't think Russell Wilson's going to be the answer in New York. I don't expect him to have a necessarily great game. He might be able to have a solid game now that Micah's not in town. Deron Bland's going to be hurt, so I don't think Deron Bland's going to play in this game. So the pass game might be able to open up a little bit, especially if they can get the ball to Blake Neighbors early. Maybe use Wandale Robinson as their gadget guy like they have been. Be able to run the ball a little bit. They might be able to move the ball a decent bit, but you still got to defend Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, and George Pickens. But that offensive line's got to be able to block this defensive line. This defensive line was showing out quite a bit against the Commanders last week. So that's going to be a big matchup to watch. Who can hold up on their own? Because Dallas doesn't really have a whole lot of great defensive talent especially on that front line versus the Giants. So it's going to be a matter of who can take advantage, but I'm still going to take the Cowboys. It's that offense I'm worried about with the Giants. I don't think Russell Wilson's going to be able to elevate them to a point of being a borderline playoff team. I think the defense is probably good enough to do it, but I don't think the quarterback play is going to be good enough to get them to that next step in this process. Next, we got the Bears and Lions. At first, I want to initially just say Detroit straight up, but Caleb Williams did show flashes in parts of that Vikings game before the Vikings decided to turn up and just go full nuclear on them. And then Caleb Williams fell apart. The Lions don't really have the defense personnel to do that. They still got some pieces, but they're also banged up, and they got their star edge rusher is coming off of injury still, so he's working his way back into NFL shape. And the offense by the Lions wasn't really super consistent last week. Granted, based off of what we saw last night on Thursday Night Football, which I'll touch on at the end, Packers might have one of the best defenses, so maybe that was the main reason why the Lions looked that bad. Maybe they weren't ready for that Packers defense to come out and look like that. But I still slightly have more faith in Dan Campbell and the Lions over the Bears, but it wouldn't shock me if the Bears are able to pull off this upset. So I'm taking Detroit to win the game, but it's a 6.5 point spread. I'm taking the Bears to cover. It would not shock me if this is a one-score game, field goal difference, really. Even though it's in Detroit, it's their former OC being the head coach of a division rival coming in. It would not shock me. But I'm still thinking the Lions are going to edge them out here. Then we got Seattle and Pittsburgh. Aaron Rodgers coming off of a really good game last week, threw 4 touchdowns, was very efficient, was playing point guard for that offense. A lot of guys were making plays. Now they're at home hosting Seattle, which their defense didn't look great, but played solid. But their offense was very underwhelming. But so was Pittsburgh's last week. Their defense was very underwhelming as well. So looking at this, I'm thinking, whose defense is going to show up first? And notoriously over the last couple of years, it's normally been Pittsburgh's. They got potential defense player of the year candidate, TJ Watt, coming off the edge. They still got the veteran Cam Ward. They still got Jalen Ramsey, who made the play that won him the game last week on 4th down. Looks like he's might be on his way to a comeback year, even though he's getting to the latter parts of his career. And the linebacking group is deeper in Pittsburgh. That D-line group is probably just better on that side of the ball. Plus, Sam Darnold didn't look great week 1. I don't think Sam Darnold's really going to look great week 2. And I think it's going to cause a lot of early panic in Seattle, which I don't think is fair for Sam because this is week 2 in a new system as opposed to last year being with Kevin O'Connell. So there is going to be growing pains. I'm taking Pittsburgh. At this point, I do kind of trust Aaron Rodgers a little more to make that extra play over Sam, just off of pure accuracy and poise. Plus, DK is going to have to get his get back over Seattle. Just straight up, I think this is going to be a big DK game for sure. One of the other 4 o'clock window games. The Broncos are going to Indianapolis. Broncos were very underwhelming last week. Barely squeaked out a win against the Titans, who were not very good last year. Bo Nix did not look great. Bo Nix made a lot of what I would call rookie mistakes that typically we wouldn't see out of him against a Titans team that I didn't think was very good. On the opposing side, the Colts looked really good. Granted, I don't know if it's because they're actually that efficient or if it's the fact that the Dolphins' defense is that bad. But I think it's going to be a great game. I feel like over the last 10 years, these games have always been great because of the tie over the whole Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck ordeal. So these games are always tight. But I do have more tape on what this Broncos team can look like when they are clicking versus this Colts team. This Colts team with Daniel Jones is a very small sample size as opposed to Bo Nix, Sean Payton, and all these weapons. So I do think Denver's going to come in here and get a win. I do think it'll be close. Right now the line's at 1.5. I think it could be a field goal game or touchdown game. But I trust the Broncos offense and defense right now more than the Colts. But Daniel Jones and them could come out and shock the world yet again. So I wouldn't put it past them. I think this is going to be one of our better 4 o'clock games. Besides the next one I'm about to talk about. Super Bowl rematch. Philadelphia Eagles going into Arrowhead. Right out of the gate, 1.5 point spread, Philly. Chiefs did not look great stopping the run when they played the Chargers week 1. And that's going to be a major issue because that is all Philadelphia likes to do is run the ball. Very efficient at it. So that's going to be what I'm watching early is, are the Chiefs going to be are they blitzing a lot to stop the run? And if they are, and it's still not working, A, Eagles are still going to run the ball all over them. B, that's just going to open up the passing game. Because even though it didn't look like it stat-wise, they still got A.J. Brown. They still got Devontae Smith. Jahan Dotson had a 40-yard catch on a post route. They still got Dallas Goedert. They got Saquon that can come out of the backfield. And Jalen Hurts can also run the ball. So there's just so many playmakers that this Chiefs defense has to figure out and deal with. All while it's the same team they played last year in the Super Bowl. when both teams were pretty much healthy. And the Eagles still went out and put 40 plus on them. I'm not saying it's going to be like that again, but it wouldn't shock me if Chiefs go in the hole early quick against this team as well, because offensively looks a little shaky, especially against this defensive front. As long as Jalen Carter doesn't spit on anybody this game, they're going to be at full strength. And I'm hoping this week in practice they've cleaned up some of the penalties, especially on defense. A lot of unnecessary post snap penalties, like unnecessary roughness and whatnot. So I'm taking the Eagles in this. I understand it's Patrick Mahomes in Patrick Mahomes' house, always a tough place to play, but this Chiefs team has been known to lose somewhat big games at home in the regular season. Postseason is a different story, but it's almost starting to give that feeling of like Tom Brady and Belichick throughout September, where they're 2-2 and everybody's like, "What are they doing?" And then they get the ship right. And I think that's what they're working on now, because they're still not going to be at full strength on offense. Rasheed Rice is still suspended. Xavier Worthy's coming off of an injury from last week. Travis Kelce, I don't know if what he did last week is going to be consistent. And I don't know how well this offensive line is going to hold up against that Eagles defense. Granted, I don't know how well that secondary is going to play, but only time would tell. I am going to take the Eagles in this one, strictly based off of roster and talent. And I got them winning by one score for sure. The Sunday night game, we get two quarterbacks that last played each other in the national championship. We got Michael Penix and the Falcons going to Minnesota to play J.J. McCarthy and the Vikings. On paper, based off of what we've seen throughout week one, I think it's going to be a lot of points scored. That Falcons team can go up and down the field on a lot of people. They just have weapons all over the place. Darnell Mooney, I think, is going to play and be healthy, so that's just another weapon added to that arsenal. But this Vikings team can also do that. They showed it in that comeback against the Bears. So I think there's going to be a lot of points scored. I think it's going to be a matter of who can have the better defense in this one for sure. And right now, I trust the Vikings defense. Brian Flores calls great defense. The Falcons, since having Raheem Morris, haven't showed me that they can have a competent defense, which is weird for a defensive-oriented head coach. You would think that side of the ball would have been addressed and figured out first. But so far, it hadn't really been that. It's been more so an offensive slug-out team. That's what they were majority of last year, and that's what they were week one this year. They weren't really in that game because of defense per se. They were in that game because offense could keep up with the Bucks, and Baker didn't play super great last week. Even though he had 3 touchdowns, he barely got over 50% passing. So I think the Vikings will be able to hang their hat on defense and let J.J. McCarthy get into yet another rhythm, just like he was able to in that late third, early fourth quarter, and might go nuclear again. But Michael Penix can do the same thing. So I think it's going to be a back and forth affair all night. I think it's going to be another great Sunday night game. But I'm taking the Vikings. Now, Monday night, doubleheader, which is weird. Normally we get this week one, but we're getting it week two. And I also just don't like doubleheaders on Monday night, even though you'll go from one game straight to the other. But the second game doesn't even start till 10 o'clock, which on the East Coast sucks. Granted, it is 2 West Coast teams, so it does kind of make sense. And the earlier game is 2 East Coast teams, so that does make sense. But besides the point, first game, 7 o'clock, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going into Houston to play the Texans. I don't know what we're going to get out of CJ Stroud. He didn't look great last week. I don't know what he's going to look like this week. He's been very inconsistent week one this season and majority of last season. Whereas Baker comes and balls out. Even though he only completed just over 50% of his passes last week, still found his guys to make plays in big-time moments. And I think that's going to be the ultimate difference here. Right now, Houston is the favorite in that game at home, but I think Tampa is just they're more cohesive, especially on offense. I mean, you got Mike Evans, you got McMillan, you still got K. Dotton, an offensive line I kind of rely on more, a defense that is still serviceable. How about Emeka Ibuka, man? First career NFL game, you're gonna have two touchdown catches, one of them being the game winner. I mean, that's just if that doesn't get you excited as a Bucks fan, I don't know what will. Granted, they're gonna have their work cut out for them. This Houston defense is still a top five, top 10 defense without a doubt. Two elite edge rushers, a top three corner in the league, and they're being coached up by D'Amico Ryans. So, with that all being said, it's gonna be more of whose offense can be more consistent, and I believe in the Bucks. Just I know what I'm getting out of Baker week in and week out. I know what I'm getting out of the receivers week in and week out, and the run game. Whereas the Texans can be very up and down. They don't even have their starting running back. Joe Mixon's out with an injury, so I'm leaning for the underdogs. I think the Bucks are going to cover the spread and just win the game outright. And then for the second Monday night game, we have the LA Chargers going to Las Vegas Raiders. Two 1-0 teams. Chargers looked very good against the Chiefs. They were pretty much in control of that game from the get-go, passing the ball, which is weird for a Jim Harbaugh team. But I do think this Raiders defense is worse than the Chiefs. And if they're able to do that at will against the Chiefs, what are they going to do against the Raiders? I think even though they pass the ball very efficient, I think they're going to look to establish a run game. That's just what Jim Harbaugh likes to do. He likes to run behind his big boys, get his backs involved, and then go to the pass game. So if they're able to get a run game established better, that allows the offense to still be wide open, especially catching, I think they're going to put up some more points yet again. The Raiders team, I worry about red zone. They struggled in the red zone last week. We've known this about Geno. Geno's been able to get up and down the field, but red zone's where it gets shaky. Granted, that's why you drafted Genty, a big power back that can punch in short yardage, and he had one last week. But I do think ultimately the Raiders are going to have their hands full on both sides of the ball. So I'm going to take the Chargers just to handle business, get to 2-0, and have two early division wins through 2 weeks. So it's just Chargers are going to be able to put themselves in a really good position to not only make the playoffs early in the season, but if things get shaky, be able to maybe have that tiebreaker for the division and host a playoff game versus having to go on the road like they have a lot of times when they've made the playoffs with Justin Herbert, which could make the world of difference when it comes to those late games in the playoffs. That's all my predictions, but I am going to touch on the Thursday night game we had last night. So the Packers hosted the Commanders and won by double digits. Initial thoughts is that Packers defense is playing out of their mind. Micah, I still don't think is at full football shape and is making plays. That the D line as a whole has taken a huge step up since Micah's been there, just because of his presence and what he can do, even though he hasn't really reached that potential yet. But the defensive line's making plays. The secondary's playing out of their mind. Linebackers are still a little shaky, but that doesn't really matter when your D line's able to do majority of the work and the linebackers just playing cleanup. And that's what they're doing. They're playing very fundamental defense, and it's astonishing teams. Jaden Daniels, who looks majority of last year and week one looked like the man, was struggling last night. He couldn't really get things going with any target, really. Whether it was Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel. I mean, Eckler had a couple plays, but then he got hurt. Their rookie running back, Bill, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. I'm gonna have to work on it. He couldn't really get loose to open up anything on the ground game, so it was a lot of air raid, a lot of third and longs. And when a defense knows it's third and long, they're telling them edges just get after them, and they're telling DBs don't don't let them get behind you. And that's what they did. And the Commanders just struggled. Granted, they also struggled kicking the ball, but that that Packers team made an offense that looked well oiled and well ran, looked like nothing. And then Jordan Love and them were, even though Jordan Love I don't think played fantastic, he played very solid. They still looked damn good. So it kind of makes me wonder like what is this offense going to look like when they're in full stride if they stay healthy. With the defense the way they're playing, they're starting to look like big NFC favorites. Granted, I know it's week 2. I don't want to call it like, oh, they're going to the Super Bowl. But if they keep pace like this, who says they're not a 13, maybe even 14 win team in a division we thought or think is the toughest and arguably are ready to go toe to toe with the Eagles? Maybe. But it's still early. I do think Washington's going to look at back on that tape a lot and figure out the little pieces that they can do to take steps forward to be kind of back to where they were last year. But if I'm a Packers fan, you got to be ecstatic about what you're seeing right now early because Micah's only going to get healthier and have more cohesion with that defense. And that offense is only going to get better as the season goes along, especially with the wide receivers. Right now, Tucker Kraft looks like their number one wide receiver. He's playing tight end. What's going to happen if you finally get on pace with a guy like Reed, Christian Watson back healthy, and your first round pick, Matthew Golden, who's still showing flashes of he could be the number one wideout? It's just a lot of interesting things that we learned, but Packers might be for real. Got to give them a little more time, be a little more consistent, but just based off of what we're seeing, they're just going out there and putting best foot forward, and they are starting to dominate teams. So I'm excited to see how this weekend's going to shape up, how we're going to look Monday before those games, and then how we're going to look Tuesday after those games. So, with all this being said, Monday you can expect week 3 college football reaction, and then by Tuesday we're going to be back on our full NFL dive of week 2 reaction. So can't wait. I think we're going to have a great full weekend of football yet again between college and pros, and I'm just ecstatic. So until then, if you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, leave a comment about your own thoughts. If you enjoyed something, let me know below. Until next time, deuces.